Welcome to 35 to 1 Roulette Cruising. We've got a subscriber strategy sent over by Lenny. It's called Arrow. So Lenny sent me this strategy over. It's called Arrow. It's a $1,500 buy-in. Now Lenny runs a channel called Casino Wars. I'll put a link to his channel in the description, and I'll put a link to the video where he showed me how to run this strategy. Okay, so with that $1,500, what we're going to do is we're going to buy in. So $1,500. I'll get the money and I'll show you all how to set it up. So $1,500 for the dealer. Remember your CPass card, they scan it, give it back to you. That's how you get your points on the cruise. All right, so we're going to get $400 in color chips. Now these are $2 chips because I try to run all of my strategies based on the norm for the Royal Caribbean cruise ships, okay? And most of their tables are $10 tables, so which means we run with $2 chips. So color chip, that's a $2 chip. So 200 is 400. And we're going to get 1,100 in black chips. The only reason for the black chips is to repurchase or rebuy some more color chips if we get to that point. Hopefully the strategy starts working within the $200 we have here, but let's just see what happens. Okay, so to set this strategy up, you're going to take 6 chips, and pretty well, like the name says, it's an arrow strategy is kind of what he's describing it as. So we have an arrow basically coming 0, 0, 0, 2. Okay, we're going to throw, I would call this a basket bet just as well as over here, just because you're covering those 3 numbers and those 3 numbers. It's going to pay 11 to 1 on that basket right there. So anyway, so here's the arrow, and we're going to be pointing toward a target. Your target is 1720. Okay. Now, if that loses, you put out another arrow, okay? So there's 5 chips there, but instead of 6 chips now, we're going to go 7 chips. So I'm going to add those 2 right there, so there's 7 chips there. Now, if that loses, we're going to extend our arrow out. We're going to add 2 more splits there. And if that loses, we're going to put another arrow, 2 more splits. And if that loses, we're going to put another arrow, and we're going to go straight up on those. All right, so we can go 1 more arrow, but hopefully we don't have to go this far. So we would put this one right here, 13 and 15, and those 2 corners there. Now we're going to take 2 more chips, and we're going to go ahead and fill that target in there. So that takes 6 different bets in order to get to this phase right here. Okay, so hopefully we won't get to this point. Hopefully we'll hit before it gets here. So once we start rolling into the strategy, well, I'll kind of explain it as we go. So there it is. This is the arrow strategy sent over by Lenny over at Casino Wars. Let me clear the table. I'll be right back. All right, so we're set up here. I've got my little bit of a cheat sheet right here because I'm not going to rake the table every time for time purposes. I'm going to fast forward as much as I can through this strategy because it's going to take a lot to rake the table, reset, pay out, and all that stuff. So here we go. We're going to go spin 1, and let's see how it goes. All right, 00. That's a good win right there. All right, so that's going to pay 35 chips right there. All right, so there's our 35 chips. Now we're just going to set back up our arrow to the target, and we're going to bring our wins back here to the rack. Now we've got to establish a walkaway with this strategy. So what I'm going to say is we're going to say $100 for our walkaway for this one, okay? All right, 7. So that is a loss of 6 chips right there. So we're going to go ahead and put that there. We're going to add our second arrow here. and then those 2 splits right there. And 12. All right, that's a loss. Now we have 13 chips out on the table. So we're just going to give 13 chips to the dealer. Now we're going to put out another arrow. And 2 more splits there. All right, here we go. All right, we hit 4. All right, let me pay it out. All right, there we go. So we got 35 for the straight up. We got 8 chips each right there, 35 chips, okay? So let's go ahead and clear the table now. That was a good profit right there. Let's see what we have here, if we've got $100 yet. All right, so we are $10 short of $100 right now. So we're sitting at $90 profit. Right there is actually another $2 there. So we're almost to the $100. All right, but hey, we want to set our walk away to 100. Let's break that 100. All right, so we're going to go back to step 1. $32 is a loss. 6 chip loss. Add another arrow. And these 2 splits there. Now these 2 splits, that's completely up to you. You can put the 2 splits here, 2 splits there. You can do 1 here, 1 there, whatever. But we're going to go ahead and pick up these 2. And the only thing we're trying to do is add a couple numbers to our target. That's it. All right, we hit 1. All right, so let me pay it out. All right, so I paid it out. So there's 35 chips for the straight up, 11 chips for this basket bet essentially, and then 8 chips for that corner there. So let's bring it back. Let's see how much profit we have now. Okay. All right, so we went 6 spins with the arrow strategy, and we are currently in profit $168 with this strategy in only 6 spins. So it did really well. We hit some good numbers. And I mean, really and truly, we didn't hit the best numbers. The best numbers to hit would be 2, 5, and if we got on way out to 8. Okay, so something in the middle would be our jackpot location for this strategy. So let's reset. Again, we're going to drop it back down to $1,500, and we're going to start it over and see what happens. I'll be right back. All right, so I'm reset. We're going to try it again with session 2. Again with the arrow strategy. I have 6 chips on the table. Let's see what happens with it. All right, we hit 11, so that's a loss of 6 chips there. And we're going to add another arrow and 2 splits. All right, 34. All right, that's a loss of 13 chips. All right, we're going to add another arrow and 2 splits. All right, 30. Okay, so now that's a loss of 20 chips because we have 20 chips out on the table. So there's 20 chips there. And we're going to add another arrow, 2 more splits. All right, 28. Okay, so now that's a loss of 27 chips. And we're going to add another arrow and 2 more splits. Well, we can't do 2 splits, so we got to do 2 corners. So let's just do these 2 corners right here. Oh, I was wrong. We do the 17 and 20 straight ups right here. All right, 19. Okay, so we got a little bit of a win there, but it's not enough to recover everything we had lost. So that pays 17 to 1. Let me pay it out. Let's see what we lost here. Okay, so that pays 17 to 1. We got 17 chips left on the table. This is how much we lost. We're just going to bring it back right there, and we're going to replenish our arrows. Okay. All right, here we go. We need to get us a pretty good win to start recovering some of this loss we have over here. $26. It's another loss. All right, so now we have 34 chips out on the table, so we're going to go ahead and count out 34 chips here. All right, there's 34 chips we just lost. Now we're going to add the last arrow and those two corners right there. So now we have 40 chips total out on the table. So at $2 chips, that's $80 on the table right now. All right, 7. All right, so I'm going to rake it all. I'm going to pay it all. And let's see where we're at. Okay, so I just paid that out. Obviously, we didn't recover everything we lost. So we're going to reset, but I'm going to take it down at least one step. Okay, so let's start setting it up again from the beginning. Okay, so what I did is I just stepped it down one step now, and we're down to 34 chips on the table. So let's see what happens here. All right, we hit 11. Perfect. All right, so let's rake everything. That's what we want to have happen. We want to hit a jackpot number. So let me pay it out. All right, so we paid it out. So we have 35 chips for the straight up. We got 8, 8, and 8, and 8 right there. So let's bring all that back to our rack here. Let's see where we're sitting as far as our bankroll here. All right, so we're still down considerably. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop it down a couple of steps now. So we're going to go down to the probably the third bet level. So which will be 20 chips out on the table. So let's see what happens here. All right, so there we go. So now we've got 20 chips out on the table. We've dropped it back down to 3 arrows. All right, 28. So we just lost 20 chips there. Let's see if we can catch us a win here. All right, so we hit 9. Let me pay it out. All right, there we go. We got 35 chips for the straight up there and 2 stacks of 8 for both of those corners. So let's go ahead. We're going to drop it down to 2 arrows here. All right, we hit 20. That's a good win right there. So that's going to pay 51 chips right there. So there's 20, there's 40, there's 50, 1. All right, we're going to bring it all back to our rack, see where we're at. Okay, so we've almost recovered everything. I mean, we're only down probably $30 right now, give or take. We're at 11 spins, I want to go 20 spins with it. I want to see if we can grind some wins back. So I'm going to drop it all the way back down to step 1, which is 0,002. Those 2 basket bets there and a split here on 1720. Let's see if we can get us some wins out of this to recover our loss and see if we can actually get into profit with it. All right, 35. That is a 6-chip loss right there. And we're going to add 1 arrow and 2 splits. All right, 0,0. It's a good win right there. All right, so that's going to pay 35 on the straight up there, and 11 on the basket there. We're going to bring all that back to our rack. And that should get us into profit with that win right there. All right, so we've got 6 chips out there profit, and another 7 chips sitting right here. So here we go. We've got 13 spins right now. Can we survive out to 20 spins with it? All right, 33. That is a 6-chip loss. We're going to add an arrow and 2 splits. All right, 0. All right, so that is, we'll pay this out here. Okay, so we got 35 for the straight up there. There's our 11 for that basket. And here we go. Back down to step 1. We're at spin 14. We're spin 15. Let's see what happens. Okay, we hit 1, so we got a piece of it. That's going to pay 11. All right, I'm going to reset everything. We're going to bring 6 chips profit back to our rack here. All right, 17. All right, that's going to pay 17 chips. All right, there's 17 chips. Let's bring it back to our rack. Let's just see what we have here now. All right, so we're going to go ahead and walk away. We have met our goal of $100 profit. We're sitting at $120 profit right now. Started with $1,500, and we're up $120. So you've seen it kind of fall apart a little bit, but we were able to recover with this strategy that Lenny sent over called Arrow. And we went 16 spins with it on that session there. It did fairly well. We did have to get out there. We had to fill nearly the whole strategy up on that session to recover everything and then kind of step it back down to grind back our losses that we had. We had a pretty good run on some good numbers there to recover. So, you know, where the ball falls really helps where this strategy goes, if it's going to hurt you or not. Okay. So let's talk about ratings for this one. As far as comp value for this one, I mean, you're starting your bet out with only 6 chips on the table. So that's with $2 chips, it's only $12 on the table. So, you know, you're not going to get rated very well if they come over and they check it and you're at that $12 level. Because if we go 10 spins with it, we're only going to get 12 points for it, right? But if he comes over and you're at that 20 chips out on the table, then you're at $40, okay? And then you go 27 chips, you know, it's $52. So it's kind of, you got to get well into the strategy before you start earning some good points. So to be honest, I don't think I would play this strategy expecting a great comp rating for it. Okay, so I wouldn't play it for comps. So as far as comp value, there is a chance that you could earn some good comps with it, but it's just according to when the pit boss catches it. So for that, I'm going to have to give it a 2 on comp value. Probably wouldn't play it for comps. I would play it just for the possibility of making some profit with it, but you better know how to run it. All right, so profitability for this one. We went 2 sessions with it, and we were $100 profit for both sessions. That was our goal, was to be $100 profit. So it's got potential to be profitable, but if you get on a bad run, if you're set up over here and it starts hitting a bunch of high numbers, you're going to be in trouble really quick, and you'll eat through that $1,500 bankroll with it. So profitability for this one, it's got potential there, but it's also high risk for that potential because I mean you're growing your bet so high that then to recover it, I mean, if you get on a bad run, you're going to be in bad shape. So profitability for this one, I'm going to go ahead and give it a 3, just because the 2 sessions we ran here, it did really well. I have run this strategy. I went 60 something spins with it the other night whenever he first sent it to me, and it did really well for 61 spins before I lost everything. Okay, so it can be profitable. It can last a while. So a 3 on profitability. Now, ease of setup for this one. Ease of setup is not too bad. Once you see it laid out a couple of times and you run it through a couple of times, it begins to be a little easier to set it up. But it's having to keep up with your chips and knowing how many you've got to put out on the table just kind of complicates it just a little bit. The betting locations aren't that bad because you're pretty well locked in and you just run across the table. Now, when they rake the table and you have to remember, oh, I had 3 arrows out here or I had 4 arrows out here, having to keep up with that could complicate this strategy at a real table. Now, if you're playing on an electronic table where you can just hit rebet and it puts them back out there for you, it's easy to keep up with. Well, this is where I was at last time. I just need to add the next arrow and the next, splits out here. So it's pretty easy to do it that way. So on electronic, I'd probably give it a 4, But on a real table, I'm going to have to give it a 2, okay? Because it is complicated to keep up with after they rake the table. All right, so there we have it. That is the arrow strategy sent over by Lenny. He's over at Casino Wars. He's got a YouTube channel. The link's going to be in the description. And if you have a strategy you want me to run through, send it to me at roulettecruising@gmail.com. We try to go 20 spins with it. I like a $200 to $400 buy-in, but hey, I'll run these strategies just like this if y'all want me to. All right, so there we have it. Make sure to hit that like button for me. And if you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe to 35 to 1 Roulette Cruising. And until next time, happy cruising. We'll see y'all. Bye.